From a young age, Daniel learned that tears were something to hide, not because anyone ever explained it clearly, but because the world around him reacted the same way every time emotions appeared. When he cried, conversations stopped, faces hardened. Comfort turned into correction that you're too sensitive, people said, as if sensitivity were a flaw that needed discipline. Slowly, without realizing it, Daniel's nervous system absorbed a message far more powerful than words. Emotions make you unsafe. Psychology explains that children don't learn emotional rules through logic. They learn through repetition. Daniel didn't decide to suppress his feelings. His body did it for him. Each time he swallowed tears, each time he tightened his chest to stop the shaking, his brain reinforced the idea that emotional expression leads to rejection. Over time, suppression became automatic. Crying felt dangerous even when he was alone. As he grew older, Daniel was praised for being strong. He stayed calm during stress. He didn't react when hurt. He handled pressure better than most. What no one noticed was the cost of that strength. His emotions didn't disappear. They went underground. Sadness became fatigue. Anger became distance. Grief became silence. His body carried what his voice never released. This is the psychological trap of emotional control. When emotions are not allowed expression, the nervous system stays in a state of quiet tension. Stress hormones remain elevated. The mind stays alert even when nothing is wrong. Over time, the body begins to feel heavy, restless, and disconnected. Daniel often felt tired without knowing why. Sleep didn't help. Rest didn't restore him. Crying, which he believed was weakness, was actually the body's natural release mechanism. Emotional tears are different from reflex tears. They contain stress chemicals that need to leave the body, but Daniel's system had learned to block that exit. So pressure built instead that he didn't realize it yet. But his emotional intelligence was underdeveloped not because he felt too much, but because he felt too little on the surface. True emotional intelligence isn't about staying composed. It's about understanding internal signals before they become overwhelming. Daniel believed he was emotionally strong. In reality, he was emotionally silent, and silence, when it lasts too long, eventually demands to be broken. The moment Daniel finally cried did not arrive with drama. There was no public breakdown, no visible collapse. It happened quietly, late at night, when the mind had no distractions left. The day had been ordinary, almost forgettable, which made the moment more confusing. Nothing bad had happened, and yet his chest felt tight, his breathing shallow, his thoughts restless. Psychology calls this delayed emotional processing. When feelings are suppressed, they don't follow a timeline. They wait for safety. And sometimes, the only safe moment the body finds is silence. Daniel sat on his bed, staring at the wall. His eyes began to burn. He tried to control it. Years of training told him to stay steady, to distract himself, to push through. But this time, his body didn't listen. Tears slipped out before permission was granted. His breathing broke. His shoulders shook. Panic followed immediately. His mind labeled the moment as failure. He felt exposed, even though no one was watching. But something unexpected happened alongside the fear. As the tears continued, his chest loosened slightly. His breathing slowed. The tension that had lived in his body for years shifted. This is the misunderstood truth. Crying looks like loss of control, but neurologically, it is regulation. When emotional tears flow, the parasympathetic nervous system activates. The body moves out of fight or flight mode. Stress chemicals begin to decrease. The system recalibrates. Daniel didn't know the science, but his body felt the change. When the crying stopped, exhaustion replaced panic. A deep, heavy exhaustion. And then, sleep. The next morning, his problems were still there. His life hadn't transformed overnight, but something inside him had shifted. The emotional pressure that once felt constant now felt quieter. Not gone, but lighter. For the first time, Daniel questioned the belief he had carried his whole life. What if crying wasn't emotional collapse? What if it was emotional communication his body had been denied for years? This question marked the beginning of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence doesn't start with answers. It starts with curiosity toward internal experience. Instead of asking, "How do I stop this?" Daniel began asking, "What is my body trying to tell me?" And for the first time, he didn't immediately shut the door when emotions knocked. As Daniel allowed himself to notice his emotions instead of controlling them, patterns began to emerge. He realized that tears weren't random. They appeared when he felt unseen, when he ignored his own needs, when he told himself he was fine while his body disagreed. The tears carried information he had never learned to read. Psychology teaches that emotions are signals, not problems. Sadness signals loss. Tears signal the need for care or acknowledgement. When these signals are ignored, they grow louder. When they are listened to, they soften. Emotional intelligence lies in this listening. Daniel practiced something unfamiliar: emotional allowance. He didn't force tears, but he stopped blocking them. When sadness appeared, he stayed present. When tears came, he breathed instead of resisting. This prevented emotional flooding. Instead of overwhelming breakdowns, emotions moved through him gradually. This is how regulation actually works. Suppression delays emotional processing. Allowance completes it. One evening, while talking to someone he trusted, Daniel admitted he felt overwhelmed. His voice shook. His eyes filled. He expected discomfort, maybe judgment. Instead, the other person stayed present. That moment of emotional safety rewired something deep inside him. The nervous system learns through experience. That experience taught Daniel a new rule: emotional expression does not always lead to rejection. Sometimes, it leads to connection. As his emotional awareness grew, his behavior changed. He set boundaries sooner. He didn't tolerate emotional neglect. He spoke honestly instead of withdrawing. Crying didn't make him unstable. It made him clearer. This is the paradox people miss. Healthy emotional expression reduces emotional reactivity over time. Suppression increases it. Daniel became calmer not because he controlled his emotions better, but because he respected them earlier. Tears no longer felt like weakness. They felt like release. Like the body completing a cycle it was designed to complete. And with each cycle completed, the internal noise softened. Over time, Daniel understood something essential. Emotional maturity is not about eliminating pain. It is about responding to pain with awareness instead of resistance. Crying became part of that response. Not dramatic, not constant, just honest. Psychology defines emotional intelligence as recognition, understanding, and regulation. Crying fits into all three. It recognizes emotion. It understands the need behind it. And it regulates the nervous system. Daniel no longer judged himself for feeling deeply. Self-compassion replaced self-criticism. He didn't rush to fix emotions. He stayed with them. And emotions, when respected, passed naturally. Neuroscience supports this. Emotional tears activate oxytocin and endorphins, chemicals that soothe the body and restore balance. Crying is not a flaw in human design. It is part of it. The biggest change was internal. Daniel stopped performing strength. He lived it. Strength became presence, honesty, boundaries, emotional clarity. When others cried around him, he didn't interrupt. He understood now that tears don't need solutions. They need safety. The man who once believed crying was weakness now understood the truth. What you allow, you heal. What you suppress, controls you. And in that understanding, Daniel found something rare: inner calm not built on silence, but on emotional truth.